welcome to another episode of Sports and Discourse with your host, Derek Stevenson. And on today's episode, I got to talk about my Kentucky Wildcat football team. And to be honest with you, I think they kind of left everybody scratching their head a little bit because the offensive line seemed to just really struggle all game long. And Kentucky was only able to amass 50 rushing yards the whole game. And everybody's thinking the same thing. If they only get 50 yards against Florida, they are going to get smacked, right? And I hate to say that, but they're going to have to figure some things out. They got to do better. I know that Chris Rodriguez is not playing. He's suspended, but they are going to have to at least get 150 yards against Florida because it's not even just about rushing the ball, but it's about keeping the defense honest because if you can only rush for 50 yards, then that means they can key in on Will Levis, and he may struggle because of it. And, we can't have the offense not being able to rush and not being able to pass. We need a balanced offense, right? So we're going to have to get 150 yards out of the running backs collectively, and we're going to need Will Levis to do some big numbers. He's going to have to go for 300 plus yards again, but this time he's going to have to make sure that he doesn't turn the ball over, right? And I don't want to harp on him too bad because he only had one interception, but against Florida, we need you to have zero turnovers. We need the whole entire offense to have zero turnovers, but we need the offensive line is just going to have to figure out a way to get on the same page. They just seem to not really they just missed several assignments. They let Will Levis get sacked 4 times, and it's just they're going to just have to clean some stuff up right now. Ultimately, Kentucky ended up covering the spread. They ended up winning big against Miami of Ohio, but the game was really just, it seemed a lot closer than the final score may let on. I think they were only winning by 3 points at halftime, if I remember correctly. And I didn't actually get to watch the game live. I was busy all Labor Day weekend. And by the way, I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend, but I was busy. I had 2 weddings on Saturday, so I was running around like crazy. So all I was able to do was check social media and watch some highlights here and there. And the first thing I did when I watched the highlights, I was kind of like, all right, they look kind of good, but the highlights was not telling the whole story, right? Kentucky did have some positive moments. They had a couple of turnovers. They had a kick return. Will Levis did throw for 300 yards. So they definitely had some positive things to take away from the game. But in order to beat Florida, the offensive line is going to have to be on point. And normally, that's one of the things that since Mark Stoops has been the coach of Kentucky, is one of the things is we've always seemed to have a pretty decent offensive line, and our running attack has been pretty solid. And I know we're missing Chris Rodriguez, and it obviously shows. But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it until his suspension is over. But the offensive line is going to have to, they're going to have to tighten up a whole lot. They can't have another bad performance like that and expect to win these games. And, the only reason that I'm even harping on it so much is because now there's expectations at Kentucky. People are predicting 10 or 11 win seasons. And if that's going to be the case, then you can't have those type of performances from your offensive line. You can't just be able to get 50 yards rushing. You're going to have to do better than that. We got to at least be breaking 100. Like I said, we got to keep the offense on the field, and we're going to have to make sure that the defense is honest with us. Because if the teams are able to figure out that Kentucky can't run the ball, then it's just going to make it that much harder for Will Levis to do his thing. And with him being projected as one of the best quarterbacks in the country, he's going to have to make sure that he tightens up his turnovers. But on top of that, the offensive line is going to have to give him better protection, and they're going to have to keep the defense honest so that he's able to make, better plays in the passing game. But like I said, man, I don't want to beat Kentucky down. They did cover the spread. They won big. They scoring 35 plus points. I mean, those are all good, positive notes to carry into the next week. I always like when you see a team scoring over 28 points a game. I always feel like you have a chance to win in most cases. Now, you could score 28 points and maybe your defense is terrible and you still get blown out. But usually, if you can get 28 to 30 points a game, you got a really good shot to win. And like I said, Kentucky did their thing. They still ended up in the second half. They opened it up and they did what they were supposed to do. But you just know that going forward, when we get into SEC play, you're going to have to tighten up the turnovers. You're going to have to make sure you can rush the ball. And you're going to have to make sure that Will Levis has the protection that he needs to make sure that he's able to make the plays that he's going to make. But like I said, we had some bright moments, special teams, defense. They did some things out there. So hopefully, going into this week, Kentucky's going to be practicing and tightening things up. They're going to have everybody getting on the same page. And hopefully, we're going to be ready to bust Florida. Right now, I believe Kentucky is a 4-point underdog, which seems about right, especially after the way the offensive line looked. But hopefully, we're going to be walking away with the W, and we're going to be trying to get closer to this 10 or 11 win season that everybody's predicting. So, with that being said, come on, guys. You got to make it happen for us, right? We got to get busy. It's time to lock in mentally and focus and just make sure that everybody is locked in and everybody's on the same page and we get it done, man. I want to see y'all beat Florida. But, anyways, I'll wrap it up right there and we'll get back at it next time on Sports and Discourse with Derek Stevenson.